Before we get to this awesome EPT hand featuring Ola Schemion, we're going to tell you about probably the #1 best thing about not being an American, and that's that you get to play on 888 Poker, where they're having the Super XL Tournament Series right now, and it's awesome.
If you use the code PokerGuysXL, as you see right here, you get 3 tickets to the series. There's $5 million in guarantees, and the main event has $1.5 million in guarantees alone. Use the code, though.
You know what they say? Them some bones.
Yeah, got to be a first-time depositor. To set the stage for today's hand, we have 2 of the world's best players, Vanessa Selbst and Ola Schemion. We're 5-handed at the 25K PCA 10 final table, so there's a lot of money on the line. They've already locked up $300,000, but it's $1.4 million grant for first place.
This is the spot where we usually see Vanessa doing something insane. We've seen it happen a lot.
Yeah.
In this particular hand, it might not be Vanessa doing the insane stuff.
But maybe it is.
But maybe it is.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. This hand was suggested to us on Twitter by Wapatow Wilson 03 and Ben Roberts. That's right, Ben Roberts. If you have a suggestion for the breakdown, tweet it at us and include a YouTube link.
We're going to break down this hand as we go, so get ready for some analysis.
Landed now at the final table, blind still 12-24. Mike Watson under the gun. He starts the hand with 1.9 million, currently 3rd in chips. He folds. Vanessa Selbst has pocket kings.
As if Vanessa needed a big pocket pair to get aggressive.
Vanessa raises to 50,000. Action folded to Vladimir Trinovsky. He'll pass from the small blind. Ace-8 for Ola Schemion in the big blind.
Now, even though we know he's behind, defending your big blind with ace-8 is totally fine against a min-raise.
The chip leader does defend. We go to the flop, which is King 10-6. Top set for Vanessa.
We 3 kings be stealing some gold.
Schemion checks to the razor. Vanessa checks behind.
Schemion does have backdoor hearts. Not anymore.
Full house now for Vanessa.
It was pretty strange that Vanessa did not continue the flop.
Well, that deception seems to have worked because Schemion will now lead the turn for 67,000. And he is drawing dead.
Now, does she continue playing this slow?
That looks like a raise. Vanessa makes it 208,000 total.
I'd say for most players, checking back the flop and then raising the turn will look like a bluff. And this is a tough line for her to take for value unless she's got a 10.
Schemion with just ace high will call.
Ola does make a very curious call here, and we're going to get to that, but we're going to talk about some other stuff first, starting with Ola's bet on the turn.
So this is an interesting bet, and there has to be a lot of thought behind it, otherwise it would be seemingly a pretty bad bet.
Right, because you can't really expect to fold out a better hand almost ever.
Right.
I mean, if Vanessa checks back the flop, she's probably not going to fold the turn with something like ace-jack or ace-queen, so it has to be a multi-street plan here.
Right. If you're Ola, you have to be thinking, I'm betting the turn, usually going to get called once, because she's usually going to check back hands that have some level of showdown value on the flop. And then bet the river as well and blow her off whatever this medium strength hand is.
Right, but that plan goes out the window.
Yes.
Just flies right away.
Boom!
Like a bird to the sky.
Like a bird.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I love
you.
that you just sang. So let's talk about Vanessa's decision to raise here. It was a curious check on the flop. Maybe she just thought she had the board so smashed it was so hard to get any value. That must be part of what she was thinking.
Also balance.
Yeah. On the turn, it seems like she might lose her customer if she raises. But Jonathan,
Yes.
she decides to raise anyway. Why?
Well, there's some really good reasons to raise. While she can lose her customer, and this is the kind of customer actually she really might be losing. Yes, he has the nut flush draw blocker, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But she gets a lot of good things that happen when he does have certain hands.
Right.
I.e., draws may find it kind of impossible to fold with all the implied odds that remain because her stack is still really, really big.
Yep.
Number one. Number two, the times Ola has a 10, or maybe even a king, but definitely a 10, he is not folding. And she has such a strong hand, she might be able to get the full double or a big chunky bet on the river if he's got trip 10s.
Right, she's willing to lose some of the equity from Ola bluffing as long as she can sometimes completely double through him when he has a 10, which is awesome. That's really what she wants to try to do, and this is the best way to do that. It shouldn't work against Ola's hand, though.
No.
But somehow Ola calls.
Right.
So what's going on?
So once Vanessa raises, Ola correctly deduces that she's only got a few kinds of hands here.
Right.
She either has extreme strength, like she has.
Really, really strong. Yeah.
Some combo draws, which maybe she decided to check back the flop with.
Yeah.
And she checked back extreme strength also, so sometimes she's going to check back these hands, we think. Or air.
Complete air. 4 or 5 of spades or something.
Exactly, a hand like that. And guess what? Ola's beating all the air and all the combo draws.
Right. So he was essentially setting up a multi-street bluff. Now he's turning his hand into a bluff catcher because he probably thinks Vanessa is more bluff heavy.
Right.
He's just floating here. I don't think he thinks he has the best hand very often.
Deuce of diamonds on the river. He checks.
I know that look. Don't worry, Miranda. This time she's actually got it. And I don't know if Ola was calling the turn to fold river on a total brick, so this could be real trouble for him.
543,000 in the pot. Vanessa bets 465,000.
All in.
Schemion shoves.
Call.
Vanessa calls and doubles up.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
That play looks just bonkers, right? It looks a little bonkers by Ola, but we're going to do our best to justify it in some way, figure it out. And I think we can start by kind of categorizing it into ways of thought. Because if Ola is thinking Vanessa can't fold a 10 here, this is a terrible play. Awful.
right, yeah.
But if he thinks Vanessa is bet folding something like Jack 10, then this is going to work so often, it might actually be profitable.
Certainly, the very best players in the world have a lot of bet folds in them on the
Yeah.
river. You bet for value, you get raised, and you fold even a strong hand because there's lots of spots where you just think the other player can't be bluffing very often.
Right.
So a hand like Jack 10, Vanessa, at least in theory, could be playing this way. Would she really raise the turn with Jack 10? I'm not sure, but maybe. Maybe. If she did and got called, I think she would bet the river.
Right.
And she probably would have to fold, right?
If what Joe Stapleton said is true, that Vanessa's only calling with full houses, which I don't know if that's true.
I don't believe it.
That would make it a good play.
Yes.
The question is, does Vanessa have other calls in her, maybe even hero calls that aren't trip 10s? If that's the case, it's a real problem because against the bluffs, it shouldn't matter that much because usually Ola's ahead of those.
Right.
So it should be a binary decision, either just call or just fold.
Right, so it's very strange to move in unless you can move her off of the value.
Right.
So it seems really ambitious to think you're going to move her off of the value when she makes this big a bet and leaves, what, 700,000 left or something like that. But Ola thinks he's doing it, and he thinks it's going to work, and it must have worked to some degree because it is super strong looking.
Right.
I personally think Vanessa's going to call with ace-10 100 times out of 100 pretty much, and probably some other 10s too. Grant's not as sure though, right?
No, I think it's possible, at least in Ola's mind, it's possible that Vanessa folds some of her 10s. Maybe not ace-10, maybe ace-10, but maybe not. I think he expects that she's going to fold queen-10 some of the time. I think that's kind of an important question here.
Yeah.
Does Vanessa ever fold queen 10? If she folds it at least half the time, then I think this is a good play. But if she's calling with queen 10 almost all the time and jack 10 almost all the time, this starts to become just a spewy play.
It definitely looks like if Vanessa has value, it is trip 10s.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that she checked the flop and raised the turn. Turns out she's even stronger than that.
Right.
But I can understand why Ola would think it's trip 10s.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's value. And so he's trying to move her off that. But it seems just so ambitious to try and do this. We just don't have to do this here. We can just... I mean, if we're not going to do this, though, I guess we should have folded the turn.
Right. Well, we could just call on the river in case she has one of those missed combo draws that we were talking about, or just a pure bluff.
Yeah.
To be fair to Ola, he is representing a very powerful hand. He's repping ace-10 or better, sometimes not even ace-10. I mean, we debated about this a little bit on the podcast.
Yes,
I think mostly he's moving in with a full house for value here. Jonathan thinks ace-10 is a surefire move-in.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about that.
I think it is based on their stack size and things like that, but as Grant said, we get really into it in the podcast. A lot of debate, a lot of argument.
Yeah, for sure.
Someone's wrong.
For sure. Anyway, Ola is repping a super strong range, so credit him with that. It just seems kind of unnecessary. He maybe got unlucky that Vanessa had a boat, because if she's actually folding 10s, it would have been an incredible play.
Maybe Ola, see, we thought Ola just called on the turn as a bluff catcher.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not doing that. Maybe he's full intention is just to bluff her off trip 10s on the river. If either a heart comes because he's got the nut flush blocker, or because he feels like he can just check raise all in, and what's she going to be able to do with just trip 10s?
This is what Ola does. He puts people in tough spots, but it's not a very tough spot with kings full.
No, it's an easy spot. If you want to hear our responses to our favorite comments from you about this video, click right up here.
That was a huge high roller hand involving an ace-8 making what seemed to be a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? We did another one just like that, kind of, except, you know, completely different.
Completely different.
It's called High Roller Nightmare. It features Igor Kurganov, one of the very best in the world. Click right up there to check that out.
Indeed. Also check out our podcast called The Breakdown, where we go into way more detail
This one
about
was
this hand.
55 minutes, I think.
We get super deep about what people can call with, what they should be raising with, why is Ola doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Check it out for sure. Also make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.